Welcome to the Fill Your Cups podcast. We're your hosts, Morgan
and Bailey.
Hey guys, we are wrapping up. Oh wait, no, we already wrapped up.
We're done with the girls.
March Women's History Month. Totally forgot about that. And this month we're starting it off with a bang because it is our first interview. Oh. So we have our first guest today. We've got Bailey's husband, Mason.
Say hello.
Hello.
And we are going to talk about all things. So we did mention subtly in one of our previous episodes that Bailey announced her pregnancy recently. And we know a lot of you guys are either talking about pregnancy, are pregnant, have been pregnant recently. And so we just we thought it was a relevant thing to talk about and wanted to kind of peel back the layer a little bit.
Yeah.
Peel back the curtain, a little bit on just the ins and outs of what you guys have experienced already.
Yes.
And I feel like I've honestly been pretty inspired by, even though I don't want kids, inspired by the last couple of years. I feel like you guys have done a lot to make sure you feel prepared and personally and as a couple. So we'll get more into that here soon. But before that,
before we start, what's filling our cups today? Morgan, what's filling your cup?
I have my water, of course, and then I have a ginger ale Zevia again.
Delicious. And Mason, what's filling your cup?
Well, today I have green tea and peppermint tea in the same container.
Delicious.
Wait,
is that a normal combo?
I was about to say, did you
Two separate tea bags.
Oh.
Two separate ones.
Is
So
that
a green tea
caffeine?
one. No, the peppermint one's no caffeine. So the green tea is 25 milligrams of caffeine.
Nice.
But yeah, 25 milligrams caffeine with the green tea, and then the flavor comes from the peppermint.
I like that. I don't like tea, so I would never know how to combine them.
I was about to say, this might be the first and last time you ever see tea on a
podcast. We're not big tea people.
Not really.
First guest and first tea drinker.
Yes. Make it a splash. Well, what's filling my cup today is just water.
Oh, I almost forgot to ask you.
No, that's okay. We got a shout out as well. So we did our girl hacks episode, and we asked on Instagram if any of our followers had some girl hacks that they had to share. And we had a submission from Amanda Torres, who we call Mandy. She's our friend. And her girl hack was men's deodorant is better and to always carry a Tide pen. And I 100% agree. I only use men's deodorant.
Yeah. It was funny, the conversation we had after, because I was like, oh, interesting. And she was like, what do you mean interesting? And you're like, I always use men's deodorant, so it's not that interesting.
Yeah, I was like, Morgan's a clown, Mandy. It's you're normal.
Yeah. Well, I guess we can go ahead and get into our episode for the day. So, we already said Bailey and Mason have recently announced that Bailey's pregnant. And I feel like just a lot of her friends are kind of going through the stage right now. So I was like, might as well talk about it, be honest about what you've been experiencing and everything. Also, not that we have to make it any more relevant necessarily, but I was like, I wonder how many women, because I know I'm in kind of the minority of not wanting kids. I was like, I wonder how many women do have children. 86%. So, wow. Almost all of them.
That's a huge percentage. Yeah. I wonder if it'll dwindle as our generations go.
I wonder the same. But also, can you guess what the median age is for women to start? Oh, wait, did you look at the...
No, I think I already knew it. 26.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
Which is how old I am.
That's perfect.
I know.
Are you 25, Mason?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, right. But yeah, so considering all of that data, it's very relevant, very important. And I feel like there are just so many things in the last couple years of my friends having kids that I feel like I've learned so many things that I'm like, why doesn't anybody talk about this stuff?
Yeah.
Like the things that happen while you're pregnant or before, I don't know. It just is a lot. So I was like, well, let's talk about it. Let's normalize talking about it.
Yeah. No, I love it. I'm excited to talk about it because I also love talking about me.
Yeah.
So I'll pretty much answer anything anytime.
Awesome. Well, do you want to just go ahead and let me start asking?
Let's dive right in. Are
Let's
you
do
ready,
it.
Mason?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so my first question was, can you take us back to the moment when you first seriously started talking about having a baby and what led to that conversation? You guys have been together a long time, so
Yeah.
this might be a while ago.
Yeah. I would say that we seriously started talking about having a baby back in like 2023. We were saying, okay, in 2024, we're going to start having babies. And then 2024 came around, or like the end of 2023 came around, and we were like, absolutely not. I do not want kids. We are not ready for kids. And so then I feel like we kind of like said, okay, maybe 2025. But then I think around like March or something, I started being like, okay, I'm seriously ready to have kids. And I was like, I want one now. And you were like, nah, we're still going to wait until
Yeah.
the year.
I definitely feel like it did take me quite a bit longer to want to
Yeah.
like seriously be talking about it. But
Uh-huh.
one of the things that we recently talked about that was really impactful was that we had just planned it so far in advance. Like it wasn't 3 years
Yeah.
out, but it was about a year in advance. Like we didn't feel like we needed to sit down and have a really
Like,
serious
serious
conversation to be
yeah.
like, hey, we're gonna be trying on this day. We're gonna this is what our plan is to get pregnant.
Yeah,
So,
we kind of had like the year build up
Yeah.
of knowing like, okay, in the beginning of the year, we're going to start trying
Mm-hmm.
to have baby.
yeah. And I feel like, I mean, this happens with a lot of different things, but I feel like then just one day I just woke up and it switched, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
ready, and I feel like I have no qualms.
Yeah,
with
and that was
starting
an
now.
exciting day for me
Right.
because I had been ready. Like, I don't know what happened or what the switch was, but just all of a sudden I was like, okay, yes, I am ready for a baby. Like, I'm really ready to be a mom. I'm ready to take those next steps. And then Mason was kind of like, I'm still not fully there. Like, we want kids and we're ready for that, but we want kids and we know we'll have kids, but he was like, I'm not fully ready for that. And I was like, bro, I am ready. So every month I was like, okay, you sure you don't want to have kids yet? You sure? You sure? Like, I want to get pregnant. And he's like, no. So then it's kind of a long way to answer this, but we did have a serious, or not a serious sit down, but we did start seriously looking into the process around like November, I would say, because I went to the OBGYN, like I set up my first appointment, so that way I could kind of already have that set up. I had also gotten a weird thing from a doctor who was like did a physical, like a pap smear kind of thing on me a while ago, and she was like, yeah, before you start having kids, I would get this checked out. And I was like, what? And basically, it was just like something with like my uterus, I guess. But everything ended up being totally fine. But that was something I was like, okay, I need to get that checked out before we have kids. And then around that time, my doctor and I, and also you and I had done a understanding your cycle episode.
Yeah.
Which I fully did not understand until we did that episode. It's like I didn't really know how ovulation worked and stuff like that. And so, like, that was something I really talked about at the doctor. But, okay, yes. November, I went to the doctor. I started taking my prenatals. I started tracking ovulation. I started, like, really knowing. I knew when the date was that I was ovulating that we were going to try for the first time. So I can kind of have those discussions before then.
Yeah, I would say that as it got closer to time, really all we had to talk about was, we always were like, we wanted to shoot for late September / October baby. So we
Yeah.
knew like the time of the year.
Yeah.
And then also, like you said, when we start tracking your cycle to know when you were ovulating, that was the big thing for us. Like that was the only big planning that really took into account because we already knew we wanted to track it. So we
Yeah.
should know when.
Yeah, it was actually really funny. I remember telling Mason about like ovulation and how that works, and I'm like, yeah, you can really only get pregnant like during this time, and he'd be like, that cannot be true.
I
And was
definitely
like,
did not believe you for
I
a
know,
long
and
time.
I was like, I'm with you. I didn't believe it either. Like I had no idea until we basically like did our whole cycle episode, and I was like, but it's true.
Right.
And then he like looked
And
it up on
afterwards,
his
I
own.
was like, I can't believe so many people have accidental pregnancies. I couldn't even think about that.
crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
really crazy. And I feel like I don't think any of that was TMI, by the way. That's the whole point of the episode, right?
I'm also never afraid of TMI.
Yeah. Also, I think something that's really cool is of what you guys just said is whenever Mason was saying, like, you guys talked about it, and then you're talking about, like, the cycle thing, like, how you wanted to plan it and stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like that part is really empowering. Obviously, you guys got pregnant, like, pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You're pretty, like, fortunate to have that.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people a lot of people today do have issues with that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that everybody does understand their cycle that well.
Mm-mm.
And so maybe, like, that's something that you could do if that is something that, like, you're interested in starting is like learning about that first. I'm talking about like listeners, like if they are thinking about this in the next step soon, like learning about that first, because we go a long time without learning. I didn't learn about that until way late. And like you said, you didn't realize that either. So,
Oh, yes. I would also say, like, if for me, I had really regular cycles. So, because I mean, getting pregnant, it all has to do with your cycle. Like, that's where you have to time everything. If you have irregular cycles, or like one time it's 28 days and then one time it's 35 days, or sometimes you just don't have a period for like 2 or 3 months, definitely get that checked out like before you start trying. So that way you can get your cycle on track. So that way it's easier to check ovulation. Because if you don't know that, then you don't know when you're ovulating, and then you can't get pregnant.
very good feedback.
I don't know. It was just something I didn't know.
Yeah. I do want to go back to, and I don't know if I necessarily put this on the questions I gave you guys, so just be as honest as you want. But when you guys were talking about, like, Bailey, you were ready, like, kind of before Mason, maybe mentally or emotionally or just, like, in your life phase or whatever.
Yeah.
Was that hard? Like, what kind of conversations did you have? Did you feel like that brought up arguments for you guys? Like, because there are probably people listening that are in that same place where, like, one of them is ready and the other one's not. And just kind of, like, how you navigated that.
Yeah, I would say it didn't actually ever bring up any actual arguments, because I was like, okay, I can be patient. I know I need to wait. Like, I needed you to be on board too. But I definitely think that if 2025 came around and Mason said he wasn't ready, I think I would be like, it's too fucking bad. Like, get ready.
That was funny. Yeah, I would say, for me, yeah, I don't feel like we ever had any arguments about it, because we knew that at some point we were going to want to have kids. So for me, I mean, I kind of talked earlier about there being like an overnight switch. And I feel like one of the things that it really was for me was that people always tell you that, like, your life's going to change, obviously, whenever you have kids. And so it sounds really scary when you don't know anything. Like, I'm the baby of my family, so I never grew up really around children. And so
we kind of love our life right now. We've got a good life.
And so when you don't know what to expect, you're like, oh, man, that means, like, I can't ever see my friends again. That means I don't have time to, like, play video games or, like, do any of my hobbies, because I'm going to be taking care of my baby. And then I feel like I didn't really have my eyes open to that till we visited one of my friends who just had a newborn. And he was like, yeah, honestly, the first 3 months when you're waking up every night, that's like, it was really, really hard to get adjusted to that. And I was like, it's only 3 months? Like, I thought your baby was waking up every single night for, like, the first year, or even longer than that. So I feel like that was kind of planting the seeds of, at least in my mind, to be like, oh, this isn't something that's going to be, like, I mean, people say it's terrible to not get to sleep and stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, it's not going to be that awful the whole time. And then also, you don't have to stop doing the things that you like to do.
Yeah.
It's just going to be different.
Yeah, I feel like there was a big thing of like realizing that it doesn't change your life in the way where you can't do anything anymore, but it changes your life in the way where you just add your baby in. Like, and I feel like that was something your brother and sister-in-law, so my in-laws, they say that a lot. We're like, no, you do everything that you like doing. You just bring your kid. Like, you just add him into the mix kind of thing, because for our nephew Beckett. And I feel like that was something for me that I was like, oh yeah, that is pretty cool. Like, you can still, like, I can still go to book club and I can bring my baby if I need to, kind of thing. And like, you can still do what you like, but yeah.
Right. Or even a big thing for us is that, like, we like to travel a lot. And so it makes it seem like if you're going to have a kid, you're done traveling forever.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily the case. I mean, I don't know how some people feel about it, but, like, I mean, you have, like, in-laws or, like, your parents who would watch the baby if you wanted to go on an extended vacation. Or once they're old enough, you can take them with you. So that's kind of where I was coming from whenever I came around on being ready to have kids, was that it's not a total stop in your lifestyle. It can just be a temporary pause. But there's also some things that you do want to get rid of. Like, I probably won't be going out to the bars with my friends anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And
no more 4 a.m. nights, probably.
Right. Trying to figure out how to get back home. But at the same time, you can still hang out with your friends, go to a restaurant with your kid, or, you know, like, hang out at your house, things like that. So, I don't know. It's also, this is kind of like rambling of the answer, but
Yeah, they are.
you also then start to think about things differently, where it's like, okay, well, now I am going to be a father, or like you are a mother, and we're going to not put ourselves in situations that are, I mean, not that we were ever in danger, but like, you don't want to be going out and trying to get to an Uber with a random person at 4 a.m. because you know that you're an expecting parent. So
yeah, it's like
those
priorities
kind of-
change all of a sudden. You're
Right.
like, I don't even care about doing that anymore.
Right.
I don't want to.
You're
really
not gonna
anymore.
like get a motorcycle skiing or something. 'Cause you're
Yeah.
like, God forbid something happens.
Yeah, no, true.
Okay, in that same vein of thought, because I feel like you were already kind of going there. I know in the last couple of years, especially Bailey, I know for you, because I'm so close to you,
Yeah.
that you've gone through a lot of like personal, like you've been wanting to go through like some personal development, personal growth, like really focusing on yourself, like mentally and emotionally and
Yeah.
whatnot. And I know somewhere in the back of your mind, it's either it was in the forefront of your mind or the back of your mind, but partially it's because like you knew you were gonna like like you were entering motherhood and you kind of wanted to be the best for your baby.
Yeah.
Maybe somewhat consciously and somewhat unconsciously or subconsciously.
Mhm.
But I don't know about you, Mason, if you've had that too. But what would you say like have there been specific things that you wanted to focus on like mentally and emotionally as you kind of led up to this kind of different stage? Which it feels like what you guys are saying is like life is different. It's not over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But leading up to that stage of like, okay, this is going to be different. How do I need to be different? Like entering this stage. How do you feel like that's something that you guys have been focused on?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I feel like this last year, we have both gone through a lot of growth, and it just happened to be that we wanted to grow and learn things and change and like get better habits, and we happen to want the same things at the same time, which is super lucky. It does not happen for everybody that way, but I feel like we're typically on the same page and we typically like do most things together, so it kind of worked out. So I don't know if at the beginning of doing all of that and like learning what habits were and learning about nutrition and learning about like reasons to exercise, like I don't know if I was doing that because I wanted to have a baby soon, and like I don't know if that was why I started doing it or if it was just great timing. But I would recommend it to anybody wanting to have kids to like get yourself together first, because now that we are pregnant, I feel put together, and I feel like we can handle hard conversations and that we can talk about money openly, because I couldn't do that for years until like 2 years ago, I feel like. And I don't know why, but it was always just something like, I don't want to talk about it. I get nervous talking about it, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, just like bettering ourselves and bettering like our relationship and just making sure everything is really healthy and like every aspect on accident, but also on purpose. It's just happened to work really well,
Yeah.
I would say.
Yes, I think like what you were saying, that you and I have both made a lot of different changes in the last year or so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like mental health was a big one for both of us. We both
Yeah.
started seeing our primary physicians about that, not necessarily in preparation for becoming parents like you were saying, but that obviously helped. I mean, because I was on medication for only like 8 or 9 months or so.
Yeah.
And I feel like in that time, in that time, I was able to figure out that this was not something I needed, but I had made a lot of changes in my life that
Yeah.
took over what that was giving me. And then I feel like, I mean, even now you're still like on a lot of the medication that you have, and that helps you a lot regulate every day.
Yeah.
So I feel like individually, those are things that helped us a lot. Like you said, exercising more. We tried to like be socially active also with like a lot of our friend groups. But I think the big one, like you said, is as a partnership together, like having the hard conversations and being able to talk about things like money and or even just like not going to bed mad at each other, or just not like, if you feel upset about something, communicating that in a adult way and not holding resentment against the other person, especially when they don't know. So
I was
those are-
bad about that. I used to not want to confront anything, so I would just hold everything in instead. And I feel like I was doing that up until like literally a year ago or something. And then something changed one day. I also don't know if it's just like with our age, we're getting older, our brains are fully developed, hallelujah. Like it could just be good timing in that way too, that like the older you get, the less like priority you do put on like going out and day drinking, or like the less and then the more priority you do have on making sure you're in a clean space and like enjoying your job. So I don't know. I do think that there's things like that, but do you remember what your original question was?
I was asking how you're preparing emotionally and mentally.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think you got it.
perfect. I stand by everything I said.
No, I think you answered really well. I do want to pinpoint something because you both mentioned talking about like finances and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Which, first of all, let me validate your guys' responses because I do think it's really important when we're thinking about like self growth and we are planning to have kids that even though your self growth was maybe not like, oh, I'm doing this because I'm having kids. Somewhere in the future it is going to affect them and they will model what you guys show them.
Yeah.
So if you're scared to talk about money, then they're probably going to have fear surrounding money and feel like a scarcity mindset when it comes to that, that sort of thing. So I think that's really great. When you guys were talking about money, I know that's just a big topic for parents when they start to consider having children.
Yeah.
Or when they maybe accidentally start having children because they just happen to get it right on the cycle. So that's a big topic that I'm sure you guys have talked about, but is that something like, have you guys talked about how finances will change whenever kids come around?
I think we definitely talked about it a bit.
Yeah.
Just because, I don't know if you wanted to or not, but
Go for
like
it.
we've just talked before about whether or not Bailey will want to go back to work afterwards and things. And obviously that will be
such a big topic.
that would be a huge change, not only financially, but just like every day.
Yeah.
I work from home anyways, but if we were both at home all the time with our kids, that's a whole different dynamic than having no kids and being away from each other all day,
Yeah. No, absolutely. I also think that, like, the way we spend money is a little bit differently. Like, I think that we both really prioritize, like, a savings account. And I don't know, we haven't really specifically talked about this, but we have started really paying off debt. Do you think it's because we're doing it in preparation for being, like, we want to be, like, a little bit less debt when the kid comes, or are we just, like, paying off debt? I love it either way. I love it either way.
I would think that's not, I've never necessarily been like, oh, we have to do this for our
for
child.
kids. Okay, yeah.
But I do think it's important to think about how much financially it's going to change because think about it. I just said earlier that, you can still travel with your kids, but that's a whole other person that you're paying money for. So there could potentially be less frequent trips, but if anything that gives you, one trip to remember instead of 4. That might be more sentimental, or at least stronger in your memory.
Yeah, definitely. I do think that, like, every time we shop or every time we go out to eat, we kind of say, like, oh, man, like, it's going to be kind of crazy once we have a kid, or, like, oh, man, it's going to be, like, we just bought diapers here the first time, and it was really exciting. And, like, we've never looked at diapers before. We never looked at the price of diapers before. We've never looked at bottles. We've never looked at pacifiers. So, like, we're seeing a price, we're like, oh, well, I guess we'll cut back on something else, or like we'll stop spending here, or like, I do think there is something, or like we do talk differently about it, but obviously you don't know what's going to change until it actually changes. But yeah.
I think one of the biggest financial changes so far has been we're finding ourselves still spending the same amount on groceries, but increasing the amount of snacks that we're eating because of cravings. Like Sonic runs almost daily, or coffee in the mornings for daily. But
That's so funny. Wait, what are the biggest cravings you've had?
My biggest cravings have been cereal, which is funny. Everybody says that, and I didn't know that everyone says that until I got a mom talk. Everybody loves cereal when they're pregnant. I don't know if it's just the sugar or what, but cereal was a big one at the beginning. Sonic mozzarella sticks are a new one that I love.
Good one.
It's a good one for sure.
did you say Mom Talk?
Mom
TikTok?
Talk.
Okay. I couldn't decide if that's what you said, or if it was Mom Talk, like a
Oh,
podcast
like,
or something.
oh no.
Okay, I understand now.
No, mom talk, which, yeah, that's a whole thing. What else? What else have I really been loving? Oh, any type of potato.
Yeah, McDonald's hash browns in the morning. I
Yeah.
heard from Abby and from one of the other moms that we talked to recently that was a huge one for the McDonald's
Really?
hash browns. Yeah.
But I don't want regular hash browns at home because they are not greasy enough. Like, there's something about it. And I'm like, no, this is not very good. So yeah, it'll be funny that every time we go out to eat, or like I'll be starving and I'll be, I know I need to eat right now. And then we get there and I'm like, oh, they have fries, thank God. Like, and that's all I want. The fries.
That's funny. That was just kind of a side thing. But I know you. Okay, so you're only in your first trimester, so this might be.
Just out.
Second trimester.
Wait, I thought first. How long is the first trimester?
12 weeks.
Oh,
Or it was
okay.
14. 14 on Tuesday.
Oh, see, I thought that. Whatever, I'm wrong.
Google has all types of answers. I went with the Flow app,
Oh,
which says 1 to 12 weeks is first trimester.
I trust Flo. Okay, well, so then you just finished the first trimester. So I
Yes.
know this might be early on, but do you guys feel like anything has changed in like the relationship dynamic at all yet?
Only that I'm way more in love. He just does a lot of stuff for me, and I feel like once I'm on the couch, I don't get up for the whole night, and he pretty much just gives me everything I need, and it's so sweet. Or like he's made extra grocery trips for me like during the day, because I'm like, oh, I really want this, will you get it? So I just feel very lucky, because I know a lot of people don't have a partner like that, and it's so small. Like, we were talking about this, how it should be the usual, like you should be able to kind of be a baby throughout the whole process, and that's what I'm totally getting so far, and I'm absolutely loving it. But I feel like a lot of women don't get that, or like if you're not with your partner, then you have to go through it totally alone, and that just sucks. Because first trimester, I was so exhausted, I was like sleeping and laying down every chance I got. This is the first day I've had energy, I feel like.
Nice.
So I think that's a part of the dynamic that's changed for me, is I'm just like, I love him so much.
Yeah, I don't feel like anything's changed for me, and I think it's funny because we did talk about this earlier, and Bailey was telling me that she was very appreciative of everything that I was doing for her, and I was like, well, obviously you're welcome, like, and I'm glad to do it, but I don't feel like I'm doing anything outside of the norm of what I would typically do for you.
Yeah.
So we talked about how crazy it is to see the different, and like,
Yeah.
you know, it's really special to her, but I'm like, I'm just doing what I would do for you any other day.
Yeah, and he was like, this should just be normal.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm with ya.
That, or I feel like a lot of people say that, you know, for like the, you know, expecting father, they have to like be a lot more patient with the mother, because there's a lot of changes, or like you said, you had like low energy. But if anything, I feel like people say, you know, you would complain a lot, but I'm like, it doesn't sound complaining to me, because if, you know, if I constantly had a headache, or if I constantly felt tired, or I would be talking about it all the time too. So to me, it doesn't seem like complaining. So you've apologized a couple times. I'm sorry that every word out of my mouth is a complaint about something.
I'm like, I'm
it's
just
not really.
tired of complaining. And he's like,
Right.
you're not complaining, you're just talking about what's going on. I'm
Yeah.
like, thank you so much. That's funny. But yeah, whenever you just said complaining, it reminded me that literally our first OBGYN appointment, which I just call baby appointments because OBGYN is too long. But literally our first appointment, we were like getting a sonogram, and the lady who was doing it looked at Mason and was like, you're gonna agree full-heartedly when I say this, or something like that. And she was like, but you're just gonna be complaining the whole pregnancy. And Mason was just kind of like, and I was like, true. But then Mason's like, you're not complaining. And I'm like, thank you so much.
I also felt like it was a little off kilter. Like,
it was weird. I don't know why she said it, but whatever.
Sometimes healthcare people just, they say things that are very out of pocket, and you're like, you're supposed to be like consoling me,
Yeah.
like you're supposed to just be like a professional.
And then we weren't even talking about like anything complaining.
Yeah, so
I don't know.
I don't even think I reacted, but she was like, see, look, he's laughing, he won't look at me, or something like that. And I was like, I don't even know what you're trying, like what joke you're trying to make.
Yeah, she probably like fires that one at like 20 people a day, and it works on like 10 of them or something.
Probably.
I don't know. Okay, so in the first trimester, you've just noticed like you haven't been feeling great, it sounds like.
Yeah, first trimester, I was just really tired and pretty nauseous a lot. But I have had, I say this because I know so many pregnant women, like in my life recently, have had awful first trimesters. Like, they are sick all the time. One of our friends, she lost like 15 pounds in her first trimester because she was violently ill every single day. They went to the ER multiple times. And when I talk about my pregnancy, I'm like, I am so lucky. And I talk about being like, I'm kind of having the ideal first pregnancy, I feel like, with how easy it was to get pregnant, how I've been feeling pretty great. Like, I mean, it sucks because I don't want to feel nauseous, but like in the grand scheme of things, I'm like, I can be throwing up my guts. So I say all that to say that I know it could be so much worse. But yes, I've been really, really tired and pretty nauseous at the beginning, but I feel like I just turned a corner with that one because I have full appetite again and I'm ready to eat everything.
Might have been today. You turned that corner.
Yeah.
Because you've had so much energy today that you
Yeah.
haven't had literally any other day.
Literally any other day. I think it happened last night when I got a full lunch and then we got pizza, 2 huge slices, and then I had Olive Garden too. And I was like, oh, I feel great.
Maybe it's just Sundays, because last Sunday you said, like, this is the first Sunday I felt good in a long time.
Oh, heck yeah. I think I went home and took like a 3-hour nap though. Did I not?
No,
Last Sunday we hung out.
We hung out all day long.
Oh!
That's
Oh,
true.
that was a pretty good day.
Oh yeah, you were just getting over being sick.
We hung out,
Yeah.
we hung out from like 2 o'clock until like 10 o'clock.
On a Sunday.
Forgot about that.
And we went to like 5 different places.
Yeah.
And you were like, what?
I actually have energy for the first
It's
time.
the inverse of the Sunday scaries. You just get
Yeah.
excited on Sundays.
Heck yeah, maybe it's because I'm like the whole day is up to me. I'll do whatever I want. I
Nice
love
outside
Sunday.
today too.
Yeah, it is. No, I totally get that.
I forgot about last Sunday.
No, it's okay. Well, I know that obviously you guys are very, very excited.
Yes.
There's also some things that have been like nerve-wracking, or I'm sure like anxieties that you haven't even told me about that you've had.
Yeah.
But so how do you balance that? Because like you're so early on, I'm sure that it's such a big thing that like
Yeah.
to think about. So how have you guys been, I don't know, navigating that?
I would say, I don't know. I think that there are so many anxieties that you do have, but Mason came up with this slogan for us years ago. Things just work out for us. And I remember when he first said it, I was like, yeah, because we make them work out for us, or like because we put the work in to make them work out. But then something about it, I don't know if it was just because we speak it into existence, but things do just work out for us. So I do feel like when I do have a lot of anxiety, or like before each appointment, I get really anxious, and I couldn't even pinpoint why I'm so anxious, but I'm so anxious before them. Or like,
Yeah, do you want to share what happened at your last appointment?
yeah, so at our last appointment, it was our second appointment. And the first appointment, we couldn't hear the heartbeat because they said it was something about like the heat of the fetus was too small. They didn't want to put it through too much stress, basically. But we got to see the heartbeat on the screen, so that was really exciting. But the second appointment, we were supposed to hear the heartbeat. And so we were so excited. That's like the first thing we do when we go in the room is I lay down on the table. The lady says like, okay, you can record if you want. So Mason has at his phone recording me just laying there. And the doctor or like the nurse is going all around my stomach with the Doppler and cannot find the heartbeat. That was really scary because they're like, what? Like, and it was ridiculous because I had just announced on social media like 2 days before that. And I was like, are you joking? And so she can't find the heartbeat. And she's like, okay, it could just be me. Like, let me go get somebody else and see if maybe she can find it. And I'm like, okay. So they go get the second person, and I'm like, it took a couple minutes for the second person to come in. And I looked over at Mason, and I was like, I'm like really nervous. He's like, yeah, I'm feeling a little bit nervous too, but like, keep your head high. Like, let's not go there yet. Like, they'll find it. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm laying down. The second girl comes in. She can't find it either. And they both spent a long time looking for it. Like, they were going everywhere all over my stomach.
5 minutes apiece, yeah.
Yeah. But dude, it wasn't really only 5 minutes. It felt like 20 minutes apiece for me.
Yeah,
I
it's
was
like-
laying
I
there.
had the
like,
2
please.
5-minute videos on my phone.
Oh my god, that's crazy. It was only 5 minutes. I literally would have said it was 20. But so neither of them can find it. So then we have to go get a sonogram to make sure baby's still kicking it. And we go in there, get the sonogram. They find the baby immediately, and they find the heartbeat immediately. And that was like, oh my god, thank God, because I had cried at this point. Like, and it was funny because I'm like, I didn't want to get up and like go sit with Mason or go hug him or anything. So I was like, that feels too much. So I was like, I'm just gonna sit here on my little table and cry for a little bit by myself. Because I was like, if I go and hug you, it'll feel like something's really, really bad or really, really wrong. So I was like, they're gonna find it when we go in there. So basically, they did find it. They could not find it in with the Doppler because, first of all, my bladder was too full and I was sitting on the baby. Second of all, I have an interior placenta. Didn't even know what that was, but basically, it just means that your placenta is closer to your stomach than like closer to your back, basically. So it's like in between the baby and my stomach. So that's like a big layer. So another reason they couldn't find it. And then also the baby's upside down, basically like in my back. And so those were all the reasons they couldn't find it with the Doppler. But it was very scary. I would have said the scariest 45 minutes of my life. Apparently it was scary as 10 minutes of my life. But yeah, that was a really scary thing. And I do think it will definitely make me hyper aware of like everything now. Like, okay, am I still feeling pregnant today? Am I like noticing anything today? Or I definitely think it will do that. But I also think that there's all the joys as well of like finding out the gender and getting to see our sonogram every day. And like you were saying, a big joy for you has been talking with people about it, which has been really fun, like telling our friends about it and planning these things. So yeah, I don't know, all of that.
Yeah, Mason, did you want to talk at all about? Well, actually, by the way, that did freak me out when you were like sharing about that.
Yeah.
And I feel like there are probably people listening who have had experiences like that with like the doctor, whether it's related to a pregnancy or not. But when it is related to a pregnancy, it's very, very scary.
Yeah.
Yes, 50% of women have an interior placenta. I looked it up afterwards. So if you are getting your heartbeat listened to and they cannot find it in the beginning, don't freak out. You could have an interior placenta.
Yeah.
I took at first some reason I thought it was 40%. I had looked it up.
Maybe it is, but
Well, my friends Kramer and Kristen both had interior placentas as well, which I told you because you were like, you said something about like, yeah, my placenta's at the front of my body, and I was like, oh my god, you have an interior placenta, and you're like,
How do you know that? You know?
And I was like, well, everybody I know is pregnant. Let me tell you.
literally.
But
You've got a big pool of people to go through.
yeah. So honestly, in my life, it probably is 50%. So I believe you. But anyway, so yeah, that's very, very scary. I'm sure a lot of people can relate, and it is comforting to know that like everybody kind of goes through that. Yeah.
Or can.
Yeah. Mason, did you have anything about like kind of balancing like the excitement, the joys versus like the, oh my gosh, we have to do this, or like this might happen, or anxieties, I guess?
Yeah, I would say for me, I mean, it's almost entirely been joy and been excitement. I mean, like the hardest part is not wanting to, I mean, at first you find out you're pregnant and then you got to keep that secret from everybody. And then you tell some people and then you tell the whole world they're pregnant. And then now the part that we're at now is we know the gender, but no one else does. So now we have another secret to keep. But in terms of the things that are like harder or a little bit scarier, I mean, I feel like that doctor's appointment, there was definitely a point where I feel like we both were like, okay, well, this could be like pretty bad, because they had told us pretty much after the first nurse couldn't find the heartbeat. She was like, well, don't worry, because we will determine viability by the time that you leave today. Like, we will know before you leave. Right, and that never crossed our mind, because we were there 4 weeks earlier and everything was all healthy. And then, of course, some things start to like run through your mind. So I feel like sometimes the worst thoughts start to go through your head, but like Bailey had mentioned earlier, we do always try to say, like, on the really big life decisions or like occurrences for us, we usually will say that like things work out for us. And then, I mean, in almost every case I can think about for the major life decisions, it just has worked out. So it's easier to know, okay, knowing in the past that if we just believed that things were going to be fine, while also, keeping in mind that there is a small chance that things could not be fine, but typically they work out for us. I feel like it's easier for the next time that you face that to know, like, okay, well, when we were at the doctor's office and we felt like there was no hope, everything ended up working out. So, I mean, like, that worked out for us with our house whenever we were getting that. We got into it within 3 or 4 days. So, I just feel like the joys have definitely been there. And, I mean, it's different for me because I'm not physically being changed by this. So I feel like for you, you might have a little bit more hardships, but.
Yeah. I really like that everything works out for us, because up until this point, I mean, look, you guys are sitting right here. Every single bad thing that has ever happened to you, you've gotten past. So you're sitting here right now on the other side of that. So.
Yeah. It's almost it's similar to the slogan of like, what's meant to be will be kind of thing. And so we just say like it's basically like that, but things work out for us. And I don't know if it's manifesting it or speaking it into existence, but it has become true for us.
Well, also we've talked about this on the podcast before, but your brain finds what it's looking for, right?
Yeah.
So when you tell yourself things work out for us, your brain looks for evidence to
back that up.
Prove that things work out for you.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh yeah, like you, instead of looking at that doctor's appointment and saying like things work out for us, like you could have looked at that doctor's appointment and been like, look, like things are always scary for us. Like, I'm I'm always struggling, like, oh, bad things always happen to me.
Yeah.
When realistically, like, you are actually, like, you're looking at that for, through a different lens of, like, that actually worked out really well for us. Like, we were scared for a moment, but, like, we were happy at the end of it. Like, the outcome was still good, you know? Like, and whereas, like, someone who maybe feels maybe more of, like, we talked about the victim mindset a long time ago on an episode, like, someone who's kind of stuck in that victim mindset might look back on that and be like, everything's always scary for me. Why is nothing easy for me? Like, I always have, like, stuff like this always happens to me. It's like, okay, but also you could look at it in a different way of, like, yeah, that was scary for a moment, but, like, we got through it, and now we've had, like you said, like, now we've had the experience of a scary doctor's appointment, and we kind of, like, know how to respond if that were to happen again.
I would also say that I feel like we try to be really mindful also of, like, you can say things work out for us and they do and be like, oh, it was just meant to be. But also I feel like we try to stay cognizant of, well, like, we put in a lot of work to make sure that this would be a success, right?
Yeah.
Like, we had planned out, like, when we got pregnant, we had looked at the ovulation period of your cycle, and we were like, okay, we're going to give ourselves the best chances for it to succeed, and then, like, a little bit of luck after that.
Yeah.
So I feel like we don't typically just rely on, like, oh, things work out for us. But then when you think about it, like, well, we took every step that we needed to give ourselves the best chance to do it. So, you know, if something else would have been out of our control, it was definitely possible. But you know, things ended up working out. Mostly because we followed the process too. You know?
Yeah, like, definitely. So, okay, how about, let's see, what's another question? But okay, so before we, like, kind of start to wrap it up, what would you guys say has surprised you the most so far?
That pregnant women were not lying. That what they say is true. Like, I remember my sister-in-law telling me, like, when we very first told her we were pregnant, we're like 4 weeks at that point. So I don't feel pregnant at all at that point. But she was like, oh yeah, like, I wonder when you'll have to stop wearing your jeans because, like, it'll just start hurting, or like things like that. And I was like, why? Like, you're not even showing yet. Like, you wouldn't change the way you have to dress. You're not even showing yet. Sure enough, it just is uncomfortable. It just cramps it. It's like when my stomach wants to blow, it needs the room to blow. I can't not have the room. Or, like, when people talked about, like, oh, I have so much food aversions. I'm like, no, you're just being, like, picky. Or, like, no, which is funny coming from me because I'm so picky. But I'm like, you don't actually have food aversions. You just don't want it. Like, you can say that. But no, it's real. Like, I'm like, do not show me a chicken breast. That's disgusting. And that's all I wanted to eat before. And, like, I think it's things like that I'm like, oh, yeah, they are not lying. Like, this is actually happening. Even though, like, you can't see it from the outside, but it's happening on the inside. And so it's so funny to me.
I would say a big thing for me is that, like, people can tell you what something's going to be like, and you'll never actually fully understand it till you're there. So I feel like I always thought that once the second that we decided to be pregnant, that everything was going to be so different from that moment on. But, I mean, obviously we're only 13 weeks in, almost 14. But, like, hardly anything has changed for me, like, my day-to-day life. And I always thought that it's like, I mean, it'll be different once the baby's here.
Right.
But, yeah, I thought that, you know, that second it would be like, okay, we're never doing anything. We're sitting at home to make sure that we are taking care of you and the baby and everything up until 9 months is up and then the baby's here. And then life changes again. So I feel like that's been kind of a surprise for me.
Yeah, kind of unexpected that life hasn't changed too much.
Right.
Like, we're still hanging out with our friends. Last Sunday, like, we went to, like, 5 bars. I was still there. I was still having a good time.
Still
still playing volleyball, still working. And, like, again, this is one of the times where I'm like, I know I'm so lucky. Because I actually know a couple women who have had to stop working because they've been so sick. Or, like would have been, like, volleyball? Absolutely not. Like, and I know I'm really lucky. But, yeah, it's been fun, like, even planning out the summer, being like, oh yeah, we can't wait to go to the Royals games, and looking and be like, oh yeah, there's a concert on this day, or, like, we're planning on going to Mason's family's lake house for 4th of July, and, like, that's gonna be so exciting. So, like, you can still do all the things, and that, I think that, that has actually been pretty unexpected. I did not know if I was going to be able to, but I have so far, so loving that. I would also say the only other unexpected thing was being so tired. I figured I would just be maybe tired because like I would get less sleep or something from being uncomfortable or like having to pee. But no, the exhaustion is like nothing I've ever felt before. Like I could fall asleep anywhere kind of thing. And I had, like in the first trimester, I took probably 2-hour naps every single day.
I would say one of the other unexpected things, more of a joy than a challenge, is that people are automatically so much, like they're more willing to like help you out, or I'm struggling to find the word that I want to use for it, but they're just, people are,
They like want to support. And
right, they want to know how you're doing more often, and they have more grace with you. Like, I feel like you and I are the type of people who always feel really bad if we have to change plans or anything, but especially now, people are like, no, it's fine. Like, for example, my brother and sister-in-law asked us to hang out last week, and I was like, yeah, I'm all for it. Like, we're not doing anything. And Bailey was like, no, I still feel pretty sick.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a whole lot of energy. And then I like called my brother back and I was like, oh, sorry, like we actually like aren't going to be able to. I know I just told you that we could, but I was like, I hope this doesn't sound weird. Like, I hope you don't think we're canceling. But they were like, no, we totally understand. Like, she's pregnant. One thing that my brother and sister-in-law did whenever they were pregnant was they would say like, she's growing a lime this week, or she's growing a lemon, or whatever the size of the baby is. So they would always use that phrase. So I think they had said something like that, like, oh, she's growing a lime this week, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Growing eyes or whatever.
Growing limbs.
Yeah.
It's cute for sure.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Maybe just people are more accommodating and
Yeah.
going back to what you said about life not changing as much maybe as you thought, like that being kind of a surprise. The only other thing that I can compare it to is like, you know how when you lose somebody and and then like life just
goes on.
continues, like elections still happen, people go to school, people go to work, and you're like, what? Like life should be so different because this person's gone.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy on the flip end of that. Like you are literally bringing life into existence, and you're like, hello, everybody. Like, something should be changing here.
Yeah, all should stop.
Elections are still happening. People are going to school. People are going to work. I have a human inside me, you know. So I feel like that's the like biggest comparison that I have to it.
Yeah.
Because both I deal with like life, you know.
Yeah.
And so I can definitely see why that would be so like, wow. I guess life just goes on. You know?
on.
That's so interesting. Well, I guess my last question would just be like, is there anything that any like advice or anything that you'd want to share with moms or parents, expecting like moms or parents or people who are wanting, like starting to have these conversations about getting pregnant or maybe are pregnant, or just thinking about entering that stage of life?
I would say that one thing that I feel like you brought to my attention, Bailey, and hopefully this isn't something that's going to ward people off from wanting to have kids, but it's something I never really thought of before we got pregnant. But pretty much before you start trying to have the baby, and then even in those 9 months before you have the kid, it's really the last time that it will ever be you and your spouse, just the two of you. So it's not that, that's necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like being cognizant of that and knowing that you want to like make the most of that time. So,
taking advantage of it.
Yeah, like traveling or even just like date nights or just like really enjoying the time before it's like your life has changed forever.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have somebody else in this life that a lot of people sometimes even prioritize their children over their spouses too. So it's like your spouse is the most important person in your life, and then you have kids, and then like your relationship's gonna change a lot. So I feel like we haven't really struggled with that at all, but that was something that I hadn't really thought of until you had brought that up to me.
No, it's very true. Yeah, I think even like for holidays and stuff, like I feel like for our last Christmas, we were like, hopefully this is the last Christmas, just us two.
Yeah.
But like, let's make the most of it. Like, let's do what we want and things like that. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be sad. It's more of like almost like a celebration too.
Yeah.
It depends on, like Morgan was saying earlier, how you're gonna frame your mindset about it.
Yeah,
But,
definitely.
the only other, I guess, advice I would have is that, at least talking from my perspective, I don't feel like it's very hard to just be there for your spouse. So if you have a craving or if you have like something specific that you really need, I don't feel like I feel like I'm doing nothing compared to you carrying and creating a baby. So it's not too hard for me to be like, all right, yeah, whatever you need, like I'll go get it for you. So.
Yeah. Or like, because I was sleeping so much in the first trimester, I felt really bad about it, and I felt like I missed Mason a lot. So I had him move his whole gaming desktop into our bedroom. So that way, when I was sleeping, he could still be in there.
Yeah.
Or when I wanted to go to bed at 8 o'clock and lay in bed, he could still be in there with me.
We still
That
talk
was
and
so
everything.
sweet. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so that way we can still be together. But I don't have to be out in the living room or be sitting up.
Yeah.
Laying down at the table. Yeah, definitely. I think my other piece of advice would just be to start tracking ovulation early, just because it doesn't always fall on the same day, or like you might have a different cycle or like things like that. So I would just say kind of figuring that out yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I like all those answers a lot. And I like, Mason, that you said that because I can, some of that, like, I feel like listeners can be like, oh, they're just saying this. Or I can verify that as a third-party witness. And so if anybody listening to this and they're pregnant and their spouse is not doing all that for them,
Send this episode.
yeah, you just send this to them. Tell them to fast forward to this point in the episode and be like, look,
It's not that hard.
oh, I
Hopefully
think
I will have a bunch of angry expecting dads.
We're gonna get our first hate mail.
no. I really like that advice. Well, Mason, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
This was so fun. I think
fun.
our goal is kind of to bring in, I guess, like maybe once a month-ish.
Yeah.
On different things. We kind of got that feedback at the end of last year that it'd be fun to have guests on. So thanks for being our first one.
It was an honor to be the first guest. It was fun to sit here and talk with you guys.
It was fun to have you here.
Yeah.
We just got like a normal conversation like it always does. But I
Yeah.
liked it.
Yeah, also I hang out with you guys all the time, but we have talked about new things today that
Right.
we always talk about. So I appreciate that a lot. And I do want to encourage anybody who's listening that is pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant or even just has a million friends that are pregnant like I do and or wanting to get pregnant like I do, that they share this with people that they think would benefit from it. And also reach out to Bailey. Like if you had a weird like heartbeat appointment or something like that too, or you had an anterior placenta,
Yeah.
whatever, like reach out to Bailey and let her know. We love to hear from you guys. So you can DM us on Instagram. So we also put up polls like we were talking about at the beginning of the episode that may be responded to. So at Fill Your Cups Podcast is where we're at. You can visit us there. And yeah, I think that wraps it up, right?
I think so.
Okay, well.
Oh, mine's empty, but
Yeah, me too.
Me too.